It's been 9 years since Dr Aafia Siddiqui and her 3 children first disappeared in Pakistan in 2003. Over the weekend, demonstrations were organised around the world, marking the sombre anniversary and calling for her release. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Absent Justice with me, Moazzam Begg. Little is known about what happened to Aafia over the last 9 years of her life. During this time, she went from being known as a loving mother of 3 and successful neuroscientist to a convicted terrorist serving an 86-year prison sentence in the US. But many questions remain over the details of Aafia's case and what really happened to her during her detention. According to her lawyer and family members, she was set up and subjected to the worst kinds of mental and physical abuse you can imagine. And to this day, no one knows the fate of Aafia's baby, Suleiman, who remains missing. We will discuss the details of this case in a few minutes. But first, here's a report by Huriya Al-Haddad.
Over the weekend, demonstrations took place around the world marking the 9 years since Dr Aafia Siddiqui disappeared. The Pakistani neuroscientist is currently serving an 86-year prison sentence in a high-security facility in the United States. But demonstrators, human rights campaigners and lawyers have repeated calls for her release, citing her detention and subsequent court proceedings as unfair and inhumane. 2 years ago, a New York court sentenced Siddiqui to 86 years in prison after she was found guilty of allegedly opening fire on FBI agents and US military personnel in a police station in Afghanistan, where she was being interrogated in 2006. The mother of 3 first vanished in her Pakistani home city of Karachi, along with her 3 children 5 years earlier in 2003. Human rights groups say that Siddiqui had secretly been transferred to the controversial US military base in Bagram and then tortured for 5 years prior to the alleged incident in 2008. It was during this period of her disappearance that Aafia says she was detained illegally in multiple secret prisons, tortured, beaten, and even raped. Siddiqui is currently being held at the Carswell Federal Medical Center in Texas, which provides specialized medical and mental health services to female prisoners. Aafia's case has shocked and intrigued many over the past 9 years since she first disappeared. And although there are still questions surrounding her detention, many are still nowhere closer to finding out what really happened to her or her youngest child who remains missing.
Well, join me in the studio to discuss the case of Raza Nadim of the Muslim Public Affairs Committee and Adnan Rashid from the Hittin Institute. They were both at the rally organised in London over the weekend and have both campaigned for Aafia's release. Welcome to you both. First of all, Adnan, I'd like to ask you, you recently visited the family of Aafia Siddiqui and met with her sister and her mother and the children, of course, the 2 children, Ahmed and Maryam. What were your impressions of meeting them, in particular the children?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for inviting me to address this important issue. I was in Karachi in the month of January 2012, and I was invited by Sister Aafia's sister, Fawzia Siddiqui, to come and see the children. And I went to see the children, and I met Ahmed and Maryam, both of whom are living in Karachi with their grandmother and with their aunt, Dr. Fawzia. At that time, when I saw them, they were both smiling. They were kind of happy, and they didn't look sad to me at all. However, I felt very sad when I met them, because I could see that although they're smiling, but there was kind of an emptiness I sensed in that house. It's like the mother of Aafia, she was there at the time, and she was talking about Aafia, and Dr. Fawzia was there. She was quite sad. She even cried at one time. She broke down. And I could see the children were still smiling. And there was something strange about that. I couldn't see any expression on their faces. Yeah. And this in itself was quite disturbing for me. Even though they could see what issue was being discussed at the time, it didn't kind of affect them. It's like they have gone through worse than this. I was told that Maryam, when she was found, she was speaking in American English, American accent. And the assumption is that she was kept by the American authorities somewhere for years until she was found in the year 2010. Ahmed, I was told, was kept in chains for very long time, and some of his limbs were dislocated, and he was going through some physiotherapy treatment as we were speaking at that time. Dr. Fawzia told me all of this.
It's interesting because I visited the family just after Mariam had been found in 2010. And what you're relating, of course, it seems very resonant to me also, because the smiles, on the veneer of it, the happiness, I think covered what we know is a very, very dark past, and something that I think no child should have to go through. Of course, he also mentioned in one of his testimonies that he remembers when his mother was taken away. The last he remembers of his young brother, who still disappeared, was a pool of blood on the floor. Yes. And since that time, there's been nothing, no news of that. Sure. Raza, you've been involved in the campaign for raising awareness for Aafia Siddiqui's case, particularly in the masajid you've been talking. Tell me what sort of response you've had in the mosques and community centres.
I was talking to Adnan about this earlier, and what I found is that the Muslim community, sadly, we don't seem to know much about the issue. I mean, with the anniversary, on the 9th anniversary of our sister missing, you notice that Muslims are taking more of an interest in this case, and I think credit goes to the Justice for Aafia Coalition for having kind of for gathered some momentum and getting Muslims to understand this issue. But overall, the Muslim community, there's not much understanding about the case itself, and I think some people have either bought into some of the propaganda that's out there. I mean, I remember once I actually heard someone say, "Oh, Lady Al Qaeda," as they refer to in the papers, and I think they're actually buying into that rubbish about her. And I just think that this is worrying, because as a Muslim community, this is not just an attack on Dr. Aafia Siddiqui; it's an attack on all of us. It's a case of where there's no due process been done. There's no real justice there in her case. 86 years have been given to her, and we've been told to accept it as if, well, that's that. And I think what I found, having spoken to a lot of Muslims and in the masajid, is that for some Muslims, it's as if they're hearing it for the first time, saying, is this possible? They'll take someone away for 86 years? And you realise that as a Muslim community, I don't think we realise just how grave the situation is of our sister.
I think what's really important in this, and I really want to get into this deeply if we can, is to talk about the case, the details of the case, and look at how is it that we came from this point of a woman who disappeared to a point who's got 86 years. Before I do that though, Adnan, you've spent some time in Pakistan. They refer to Aafia in all the different places as Qaum ki beti, which is the daughter of the nation. Sure. In reality, what do you think Aafia Siddiqui's name means to the average Pakistani?
To average Pakistanis, I am very sure that Aafia is a very, very special person. They love her for her sacrifices, and they also do feel for her, and they do care for her. However, the government of Pakistan has played the role of the devil in this case, deliberately, and I say with responsibility, that the Pakistani government deliberately neglected Aafia's case.
Now, you were aware, of course, when you were in Pakistan visiting the Siddiqui family,
yes,
that the government was making overtures to the Siddiquis, knowing the level of concern people have for this. And what were they doing?
Well, Aafia's mother, who I respect and admire as a woman, I've never seen a stronger woman in my life than Aafia's mother. She is a very strong woman, even though she had been in hospital. Just a week before I visited the family, she was in hospital due to a stroke. And when I went to the house, she was in the living room, and I met her in the living room, and she showed me all the flowers and all the fruits sent by the Pakistani government officials, including the Prime Minister. And she actually showed me the card sent from the Prime Minister, whether he was directly responsible for it or not, but it came from the office of the Prime Minister. And she said, everyone has been calling me, asking me, and calling me mother, ma, aap kaisi hain, how are you, our mother? So they call her their mother, but when it comes to acting on behalf of their sister, because if they're calling Aafia's mother, then Aafia's the sister. When it comes to acting on her behalf, they are useless. Haqqani, his name was Hussein Haqqani, who was an ambassador to the US,
yes.
Representing Pakistan. Afia's mother told me in person herself that he used to call her almost every single day, assuring her that Aafia is about to come. She will come home in 2 to 3 days. It's just the matter of time, and you will see your daughter soon.
Indeed, a couple of years ago when I was there, he was calling all the time. So
SubhanAllah.
yes.
And the painful side of this story is that Afia's mother told me that we even prepared Afia's room. We were so sure, we were assured so powerfully by the ambassador in America that Aafia is just about to come. Obama has already authorized her release, and she's about to come, and she should be with you in 3-4 days. And Afia's room was prepared, everything was done, the room was cleaned, and it was ready for her. But Aafia never came.
So look at the insults by the Pakistani government. A woman has a stroke, and they send her gifts saying, "Oh, we really care about you," but nothing's been done about it. It's just insults.
Now, you remember, of course. Do you remember the Raymond Davis affair? The CIA agent, of course, who shot 2 people, and he was taken into custody and so. There was many discussions at the time that there could possibly be an exchange. A golden opportunity was lost. Why do you think that happened?
It's a case of, I mean, the brother will know better than me because he's been there, seen the situation on the ground. But it's a case of the Pakistani government is in collusion in regarding this case with the Americans, and you think, well, they're prepared to turn a blind eye to their supposed sister. Yeah. And they're prepared to do nothing about it except for the empty words and the rhetoric that says, "Oh, we care about our daughter, Aafia Siddiqui."
The government of Pakistan is actually complacent in this. They have, in fact, I believe, facilitated Aafia's imprisonment, her sentence. No, because Aafia's mother was telling me that she was told by Haqqani that the American government wants to give Aafia away to Pakistanis. Pakistani government didn't want to take Aafia back for some strange reason.
And this is despite the fact that literally hundreds of thousands of people were demonstrating on the streets of Pakistan, including, as Aafia's mother told me herself, the Christian community in Karachi demonstrated in favour of Aafia's return.
That's right. And I want to come back to Raymond Davis's case. Mm-hmm. This is a man who shot 2 people in cold blood on the streets of Pakistan. And a third was killed by the people who came to rescue him, unknown people. Mm-hmm. He was a murderer, there was no doubt about that. He admitted to it. Then the US government somehow manages to take him out within 2 months. They take him out of the country and he's freed. As to where he is now, we don't know. He has killed 2 people and he was freed, and the Pakistani government facilitated his freedom. And on the other side, we have Aafia, who hasn't killed anyone to date. We don't know whether she's killed. Yeah. Okay,
that's the crucial point that I want to really get to, because this is the bare bones of the story. Aafia Siddiqui, she disappears in 2003. When I was in Bagram, I used to hear the sounds of a woman screaming that I was led to believe was, my wife being tortured. Alhamdulillah, it wasn't, but it was somebody's wife. It was somebody's daughter. It wasn't Aafia Siddiqui, but it turned out that it was somebody else. And later on, I discovered that there's some sort of a link, that women have been brought into custody in Bagram. All of that period in which Aafia Siddiqui says that she was abused, tortured, raped, has been completely discounted by Judge Berman, who was the sentencing judge in when she was convicted. Why do you think that this crucial period has not been regarded at all, when she said, in fact, that she was tortured?
Well, this in itself shows us that the American justice system failed to recognize the difficulties Aafia went through within this period. The period you referred to, from the year 2003 up to the period she was allegedly found, or
outside the house of the governor of Raza.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right. What happened to her? Why doesn't Pakistani government come out and tell us? Why doesn't Musharraf come out and tell us as to what happened to Aafia? When he's asked about Aafia, he says, I didn't have any knowledge of Aafia.
Right.
The brother thinks here on a very pertinent point there, that because to give the details of the case facing Dr. Aafia Siddiqui would be to expose their own dealings in regarding her case. To say that, how she's been missing for so long, to admit to what's happened to her would be to admit to their own faults and their own failings regarding, and that's why it'd be better for them to stay quiet and not reveal the truth.
Sister Yvonne really did an amazing investigation of Aafia's case, and particularly the In Search of Prisoner 650, in that she went to the place where the alleged incident is supposed to have taken place, interviewed the governor, interviewed the chief of police, and of course you hear statements from them saying that she never fired any shots. But countenance this, brothers, I want you to think of this. We as prisoners in Guantanamo never once got the opportunity to grab a weapon, and we're men. And if we could have, we probably would have. And to this date, I've never heard of any case where that has happened, because according to the American protocols and procedures, no soldier will leave his weapon unattended. And they will not leave a prisoner unshackled. Aafia is the one who got shot.
And that's very clear. Again.
Right, that's very, very clear.
Yeah.
Yet she has been given an 86-year prison sentence for the attempted killing of a soldier. And there are people who've killed American soldiers who haven't got that sort of sentence in the so-called war on terror.
For allegedly attempting to possibly kill someone, she's gone 86 years.
And I'm trying to still understand what is behind this sentence. Is this a message? Is it a gauntlet thrown to the Pakistanis? Said, this is what we're going to do to your citizens. Tell us what you can do in response.
I think this is a message to the whole world, that we can pick up any woman from anywhere at any time and do this to her, and you cannot do anything. American government is actually slapping, or this is a slap in the face of world justice, if there is something called world justice. We live in, I'm a student of history, and I believe we are living in the dark ages. We're living in a world where millions of people can be killed, thousands of women can be raped, and no questions are asked. Aafia is one case, and it's a special case due to the reasons we've already discussed, because this is clear injustice, and the whole world knows about it, amazingly. And unfortunately, I think Muslims in particular are to be blamed. I mean, we can go outside and say, this is what the Americans did, or this is what the others did. What are we doing? I don't feel sorry for Aafia. Aafia is a special person. I mean, I want to share some of the things about Aafia told by her mother. She spoke to Aafia last Ramadan. That was the last time they spoke to her. And her mother related to me that Aafia, when her mother complained to Aafia that she's very sad about her and her condition, Aafia comforted her mother and she said, "Mother, do not worry about me. Do not think that I am in pain. Rather, I'm quite happy." And her mother was shocked. "Why are you happy, my daughter? You're in prison, you've been raped, you've been tortured, you've been sentenced to 86 years. How?" She said, "I see the Prophet ﷺ every single night in my dream. I see the Prophet every night in my dream, and he comes and comforts me." Allahu Akbar. Just imagine that. That's a special person. And then she told her mother that Prophet ﷺ came to my dream and he took me to Aisha, his wife, radiallahu anha, and he said to Aisha, "Aisha, meet our daughter Aafia. This is a great honor. This is a great honor." And then her mother, she obviously cried when she heard that. And then Aafia told her mother that even the Prophet ﷺ came about you to me. And he said to me to deliver this message to your mother that on that day, when everything will be clear in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah has something special for your mother, for going through all these difficulties.
Dr. Fawzi was supposed to join us on the phone from Pakistan, but her mother Ismat is in hospital again, and she's with her on the bedside. So we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives her shifa soon and makes her recover. She's indeed a very strong woman, and she's the mother of a woman who, Aafia Siddiqui, if you hear about her from prior to her detention, you hear about how she used to campaign for the brothers and sisters in Bosnia, and how she was well known in the Islamic societies and other societies.
See, that's the point I wanted to hit on, brother. That, you know, the beautiful things that Brother Adnan is sharing with us, and I think these are gems that really we need to understand and reflect on, because what you realize is that we're talking about a woman who's our sister. You know, although they call her Prison 650, she's our sister. And we realize that this woman, no matter what they do to her body physically, her mind is free. And they can do whatever they want to her. But like you said, she's in prison and she's fine. And that's because her mentality says, I will be free and I am free. And I think that's why, as Muslims, like you were saying, we need to galvanize support and stand up for her, because this is a woman that's been given 86 years. And what makes it worse is that they have the audacity to call it a life sentence. It's not a life sentence, it's a death sentence. That's what they've given her. And then they turn around, and like you're saying, the dark ages, these aren't, you know, these aren't only a time where millions of people can be killed. This is a time where millions of people can be killed, but then the victim is called the aggressor. That's the kind of time we find ourselves living in.
Adnan, you touched on that, you said that I don't think they're responsible, I think the Muslims are responsible. I know the MPAC is very, very ardent in fighting for the rights of Muslims to push for their own rights. What sorts of campaign techniques, what sort of actions do you recommend or suggest people to do to get involved in trying to get Aafia's case brought to the fore?
See, there's numerous things, and I'll touch on those in a second, but I think for me what's more important is the mindset of a Muslim. Now, for example, the brother here is a student of history, like you're saying. He's someone that's skilled in a specific aspect of knowledge, of education, or he's got a certain skill set, and he's using that as well as to his best of his ability to help the sister. And that's the thing I think Muslims have to understand within the UK, that it's not about what specific actions, it's more about the mindset which says that I will do everything within my ability to help my sister because Allah commands it of me. Now, regarding the actions themselves, there's numerous things that we can do. And I mean, I'd break it down to, I'd say 4 or 5 things that Muslims can do. One of them would be that to be fully involved in this case of Dr Aafia Siddiqui, to help out her family wherever they can. You know, the house, the brother was sharing with me before the show that how the house is seeming to fall apart. The family is, mashallah, they're also mentally strong, but there's only so much a person can take. They need that moral support, they need that financial support, they need the support in the campaign within this country and outside. So Muslims need to get involved, not only part-time though, but in their entirety. We need to dedicate ourselves to our sister, because if she is our sister, we have to ask ourselves, if it was our blood sister, what would we do? We wouldn't rest. But when it's a sister of the Ummah, we seem to make excuses. We can't. We have to try as hard as we can.
This is a very, very important point. I think the family of Aafia Siddiqui, they feel used. Many politicians and political activists, they come to the house, they do their press conferences, they make their point, get the hoo-ha done, and walk away. The family just simply gets abandoned. When I went to the house, as I said, as mentioned by the brother, that the house looks like it's never been repaired, unfortunately, and it's a good big house.
Yes.
But the family is going through so much trouble. I don't think they are worried about fixing their house. They're worried about their daughter. Dr. Fawzia herself mentioned to me that these last 10 years were the worst 10 years of her life. Of course, obviously, I mean, for understandable reasons, because she went through so much trouble trying to liberate her sister. But I don't see any active part played by Muslims to support this family, either morally or materially. Not that they are beggars, they are begging in the street, asking for the Muslims to come and support them, but it is our duty to show the world and show the oppressors and the tyrants that we will not give up. We will not give in to this oppression and tyranny, and we will support our brothers and sisters and their families. For as long as it takes. For as long as it takes.
Now, brother, you also asked the other things that people can do. Now, the second thing I'd recommend is this. Like you're saying, there's many discrepancies regarding the case of Sister Aafia Siddiqui. I think it's very important for people to come out and say, like the brother saying so eloquently, that you have a case of a man who can, in broad daylight, kill 2 people and is then saved by his government, and there is one woman who is alleged to have done something, and like you're saying, it doesn't add up, having been in these torture chambers yourself, that it's just not possible, and she's given 86 years. So I think it's important that the second thing that Muslims can do, and non-Muslims, everyone can do, is to expose these things, saying that, hang on, that doesn't add up. Because remember, with these cases, it's the more airtime they get, the more it's in the public sphere, people have to deal with the issue. Right now, people can say, all right, another anniversary over, we don't care about her. But the thing is, the more we keep pushing about it and say, no, there is an issue here, there is injustice, and people are forced to deal with the issue. And the third thing is, I think what we have to do is to wake up others to the issue. I mean, the brother and I were both there at the demonstration on Saturday, and I think what was hurtful to me was, I think, first a realization of all of that as an ummah we're not doing enough. I think we need to do so much more, because we're believers in Allah. There's nothing that can stop us. Sky's the limit. But secondly, that the turnout, I thought that it wasn't good enough. I think if we call her our sister, it's not enough to just say, oh, I shared a picture on Facebook or something. No, we have to tell people. We have to speak. We have to be there. I mean, at that same time, there was a demonstration outside the United States Embassy about Trayvon Martin, the Afro-American boy that was shot in America, and there were hundreds of people. And I think, look at that, one person is shot, and rightly so, they came out to show that we are against such injustice. Our sister's been given 86 years, and it's not the only case. There have been so many hundreds of other cases. When will we stand up? Is she not? The thing is this, because then the question we have to ask ourselves is this: if we are following the example of the Prophet ﷺ, the question we have to ask ourselves is this: either the Prophet, peace be upon him, was a man who cared for the ummah, who strove his hardest, and that we're not following him, or that the Prophet wasn't like that. Now, obviously, it's not the case that the Prophet wasn't like that. He tried his utmost. He used to cry for Muslims who weren't even born, and there's Muslims whose lives are being taken away who we seem to turn a blind eye to. So I think the message comes to, it's time to stand up. That's what take a step towards Allah. Allah runs towards you.
That's all we have time for this week. Please, I'd ask our viewers, inshallah, to try and get in contact with the Justice for Aafia Coalition website, the JFAC, to learn more about the case. Also to make dua for the mother of Aafia Siddiqui, Ismat, who is in hospital at present. I'd like to thank my guests for coming on the program and to you at home for watching. I will see you again in 2 weeks, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.